On the 3rd year of our marriage, I showed Luis my displeasure for the very first time. The reason was simple: the cleaning lady found a lipstick in his study, but his study was the one place he never allowed me to enter. I held up the lipstick and asked him to explain. He answered casually. The new intern came by the other day to drop off some files. She must have left it behind. I didn't reply, but suddenly Luis snapped. I already explained it to you, so why are you still making that dead face? If you don't trust me, then let's just get divorced. I nodded. Under his stunned gaze, I pulled out the divorce papers. Chapter 1. That evening, as the cleaning lady was about to leave, she pulled a lipstick out of her pocket. Rita, you left your lipstick in the study. I put it on the desk for you. This packaging looks expensive. You shouldn't be so careless. I froze mid-binge watch, instinctively wanting to say impossible, but the lipstick was real. The cleaning lady came every afternoon for 4 hours, so she didn't know that Luis never let me linger in his study, not even as his wife. Even if I brought him fruit or milk, he would shoo me out immediately, let alone leave behind any personal items. I picked up the lipstick, a bold, flashy rose red, never my style. After she left, I sat alone on the couch for a long time. The TV still played its melodrama, but I didn't hear a single word. Finally, I opened the home surveillance. Luis had his own security system in his study, which I couldn't access, but from the living room cameras, I could still see who had entered. I scrolled through the footage and soon found the day I went back to visit my parents. The door opened, Luis stepped in first, followed by a petite young woman. Your place is decorated so nicely, she chirped, her voice sweet and lively, like a little bird. Luis ignored her comment and asked instead, why are you off work so early today? Aren't you afraid your manager will say something? The girl laughed, leaning against his shoulder with a coy whine. With you backing me up, who would dare? That scene stabbed me straight through the heart. Back in my senior year of college, I had interned at Luis's company. We had just made our relationship official. At lunch, I'd carefully prepared him a homemade meal, planning to deliver it when no one was around. But the moment I stepped into his office, his brows furrowed. From now on, at the company, we keep our distance. You're just an employee, I'm your boss. His coldness crushed me, and I spent the whole afternoon listless. At home, he wrapped me in his arms, soothing me. I'm the chairman. If people see I put my wife in the company, it'll affect business. If other employees want to bring in their aunts and cousins, how could I refuse? I had wanted to argue that I hadn't pulled strings, that I had passed the interview on my own merit. But seeing how tired he looked, I swallowed my words. Not long after, I resigned. Under Luis's persuasion, I gave up my career and became a housewife. But when I heard that girl say so brightly, with you backing me up, I finally understood. The only relationship Luis ever wanted to keep hidden was the one between him and me. Chapter 2. Luis took out a bunch of snacks from the fridge and went into the study with Miriam. Maybe because I wasn't home, he didn't even bother closing the study door. He sat at the desk working on his computer, while Miriam lay on the sofa eating the snacks he gave her. When she opened a yogurt, it spilled onto the blanket. Miriam stuck out her tongue playfully. Oops, sorry. I got the carpet dirty. Luis was sitting deeper inside the study. From the living room's surveillance, I couldn't hear what he said, but seeing Miriam's sweet smile, I could imagine it was something like, don't worry about it. When they walked out of the study, Luis even gently wiped the crumbs from the corner of her lips and asked with pampering tenderness, you ate so many snacks. Later, when I take you for French food, will you still be able to eat? Of course. Miriam laughed and clung to his arm. With a loud slam of the door, the world fell silent again. When I turned off the video, my hand was trembling uncontrollably. I had always thought Luis was naturally indifferent. When we first renovated the new house, he had personally picked the furniture for the study. That sofa in the study was my favorite, soft and light to lie on. One time, while he was showering, I lay on it, scrolling through my phone, holding a bag of shrimp chips. When he walked in, the look in his eyes is something I'll never forget. It was disgust, pure repulsion. Who told you to come in here? Didn't I say this is my private space? The smell on you mixed with the snacks, it's awful. I was stunned. I didn't even put on perfume today, and the shrimp chips hardly smell. Before I could finish, he cut me off coldly. Get out. That night, Luis slept in the study, and I cried in the bedroom the whole night. Afterwards, with swollen eyes like walnuts, I tried to comfort myself. Maybe Luis had severe OCD. Maybe the study was his private spiritual world, and that's why he couldn't let anyone invade it. But now, he not only allowed another girl to lie on his sofa eating snacks, he even handed them to her himself. Everything I used to tell myself feels like a joke now. There was never any principle or OCD. It was only because I wasn't the one he favored. I sat alone in the living room for a long time, until night fell. I finally opened my computer and printed out the divorce papers. Truth is, I had drafted them 3 months ago, but I never had the courage to take them out. I'm good at making excuses for him, always giving Luis reasons, because he was the one I had secretly loved all 4 years of college. Back then, Luis was different from other rich heirs. His grades were outstanding, and he often represented the school in competitions. I always watched him shine on stage, hoping that even for a moment, his gaze would stop on me. That's when my secret crush began. Later, he dated the campus beauty, but it didn't last long. After graduation, she insisted on entering the entertainment industry. His mother absolutely forbade her son's wife from appearing in public. And so, they were broken apart. Luis, devastated, married me in defiance of his mother. I always believed that as long as I played the role of a good wife, one day the iceberg would melt. But I warmed him for 3 whole years, and the ice never thawed. Miriam, ever since the day she appeared, my instincts screamed warnings. She was just like the campus beauty, radiant, fiery. 3 months ago, I had already heard of Miriam. She was exceptionally recruited into the company, and within 3 days, she already had Luis's number. I secretly checked their chat logs. Miriam, just an intern, wasn't afraid of the CEO at all. She boldly complained about her work problems, and often shared snacks and trendy restaurants she liked. Luis remembered every detail of her favorite flavors. That was something I never had. When you truly like someone, she becomes your exception. Luis, who was always so strict with work, would patiently comfort Miriam when she messed up, take her out for food to cheer her up, and even put in a word with her supervisor. Every time he texted Miriam, the corners of his lips lifted unconsciously. He began coming home later and later, and when he did come home early, he was glued to his phone, typing non-stop, smiling at every message, just like me back in college, waiting for his replies with my heart racing. When I tried to talk to him about my unhappiness, he shot me down coldly. We're just a normal boss-employee relationship. Do you think everyone is as dirty-minded as you? That single line silenced me completely. Now I realize, the reason he hurt me so recklessly was only because he knew I loved him. But now, I want to take that love back. Chapter 3. When I showed Luis the lipstick, his face was full of impatience. It was that new intern. She came to the house the other day to drop off some documents and accidentally left her lipstick on the couch. Just throw it away. What's the big deal? What a lousy excuse. Who brings documents and somehow forgets a lipstick on the sofa? I didn't reply, just thinking about how I should take out the divorce papers without making it too abrupt. Seeing my silence, Luis suddenly snapped. I already explained it to you. So why are you pulling that dead face? Who are you trying to guilt trip? If you don't believe me, then fine, let's just divorce. I nodded. That works. Under his stunned gaze, I pulled out the divorce agreement. Look over the property division to see if there's anything to negotiate. I don't want anything else. I only want this apartment. As for the 5% company shares you gave me when we married, just cash them out for me. Luis froze for a second, but quickly replaced his shock with a sneer. Using divorce to threaten me? Rita, since when did you learn to play the push and pull game? You live in comfort at home every day. Do you really think you could keep this lifestyle without me? I clenched the papers in my hand. Living in comfort? Do you think the chores magically do themselves? Luis, what are you so high and mighty about? You were the one who coaxed me into quitting my job and staying home, and now you look down on me for being a full-time wife? Luis was genuinely stunned. In the 3 years of our marriage, I had always been the obedient, gentle wife in his eyes. He had forgotten that before all this, I was sharp-tongued and capable enough to earn the position of team leader in just 3 months, without anyone's backing, and that if I didn't love him anymore, I could wield that same sharpness against him, unable to argue back. He masked his guilt with anger. "Rita, you're just bored." I looked him straight in the eyes. "I am tired of this life. Signing those papers is what's best for both of us." Luis stared at me for a long time, searching my face for any sign that I was joking. At last, he gave up. With a look of irritation, he snatched the papers, signed his name, then glared at me through gritted teeth. "Happy now?" My hand trembled as I took the papers back. When I looked at Luis, all I felt was a deep, endless sorrow. This was the man I once loved so much. The closer someone is, the more they know exactly where to hurt you. In our marriage, I had brought up divorce before, like a child crying out for attention. And in the end, I was always the one to back down. But this time, I wouldn't. I tucked the divorce papers away and said calmly, "Let's go." Luis frowned. "Go where?" "The Civil Affairs Bureau. To get divorced." Luis opened his mouth, ready to spit out something sarcastic. But when he realized I was dead serious, his expression hardened. "Rita, are you done with this nonsense? You think being called Mrs. Luis actually means you deserve this life?" "Yes, I don't deserve it. That's why I'm giving it back to you." "Enough talking. The Civil Bureau will close soon." I grabbed my bag and walked out first, not wanting to waste another word on him. He really thought being his wife was some enviable title? I was his wife because I loved him. Now that I don't love him anymore, I sure as hell won't let that title trap me. Chapter 4. At the Civil Affairs Bureau. The staff kept urging us to think it over, but when they saw the foul expressions on both mine and Luis's faces, they finally shut their mouths in embarrassment. We could only get the divorce certificate after the cooling-off period ended. Holding back a stomach full of anger, I left the bureau and realized it had started raining. Luis held an umbrella, opened the car door, and looked at me with a cold glance. It seemed like he was waiting for me to beg so he could graciously offer me a ride. But instead, I walked straight into the heavy rain, letting it drench me as I went in the opposite direction from him. "Rita, you'll regret this. Even if you cry like a dog and beg me later, I'll never come back." I shrugged, enjoying the cleansing of the storm, and didn't answer. Behind me came the sound of a car door slamming violently shut, followed by the furious roar of an engine. From that moment on, our paths were separate. When I returned home to pack, I realized I hadn't bought much in the 2 years of our marriage. I used to love dressing up, but because he once drunkenly told me that no matter how I dressed, I could never compare to the campus beauty, I had almost stopped buying new clothes. All my belongings fit into a single suitcase and a backpack. That very night, I moved into a hotel. I could take my time finding a new apartment, but I wasn't willing to spend even one more day under the same roof as him. I thought my first night away would be sleepless, but the moment I lay down on the hotel bed, drowsiness hit me. The torment and tossing I had expected never came. Instead, I felt a lightness I had never experienced before. My feelings for him had long since been worn away by his repeated coldness and ridicule. What I had been holding on to all this time wasn't love, just obsession. I slept until noon. When I woke up, I had more than 10 missed calls. Rubbing my eyes, I checked the call log. They were all from Luis's mother. She had never liked me, just as she hadn't liked the campus beauty. But unlike her, I was the legitimate daughter-in-law. That gave her more excuses to find fault with me. Since I hadn't answered, she sent a barrage of voice messages. When I played them, her dissatisfied voice rang out. "Rita, why aren't you answering? Honestly, since you don't have a job and stay at home all day doing nothing, don't sleep in so much. Get up and move around, it'll help you get pregnant. Remember to remind Luis to come back next week for your grandfather's birthday. You can drive. Luis works so hard every day, and driving 4 or 5 hours is too tiring for him. You're living a life of leisure at home, so doing it once in a while won't kill you." After listening, I let out a mocking smile. She had always been like this. What sounded like concern was, in fact, disguised criticism. It was the same way she had once urged me to quit my job to take care of Luis, echoing her son in perfect harmony. The moment I quit, she hired a housekeeper, but only for his study. The rest of the cleaning, laundry, and cooking was all on me. Being a housewife wasn't the life of leisure she liked to claim. Cleaning a 3-bedroom apartment alone was exhausting. Now that I was divorced from Luis, I no longer had to tolerate her. Auntie, if you think staying at home is such a life of leisure, why don't you fire your maid and try it yourself? From now on, call Luis directly about his matters, don't come to me. Not long after, she sent another long ranting message, scolding me for being rude and lacking manners. I instantly replied, I've already divorced your son. Don't push me, old hag, or I'll slap you. She had never acted like a real elder, just used the title to suppress me. I had disliked her for a long time. That night, my parents called, to spare them worry. I hadn't yet told them about the divorce, but now that things had blown up, I had no choice but to face it head on. Chapter 5. When I walked in, my parents were already there. Called over by Luis's mother. Everyone was sitting in the living room, drinking tea and exchanging pleasantries. The moment she saw me, she came over with exaggerated warmth, as if none of the unpleasantness from earlier had ever happened. But that was typical of her, one face in public, another behind closed doors. Rita, you're back. See? I told you. There's no such thing as overnight grudges between husband and wife. You've just been staying home every day with nothing to do. Getting bored. That's why you picked a fight with Luis. Going out for a while to cool off is fine. But now it's time to come home. Young people don't know their limits. Your parents are already old, and you still make them run around because of your little tantrums. Don't you think that's inappropriate? Her words sounded polite on the surface, but they were really just blaming me for being immature, for making everyone else worry whenever I got upset. I'd heard the same kind of talk countless times before, and because she was Luis's mother, I swallowed my grievances in silence. Luis never once stood up for me. If he had, just once, shown that he was willing to protect me, maybe I wouldn't have become this disheartened after 3 years of marriage. Now, there he was, sitting proudly on the sofa, waiting for me to apologize and bow my head like always. What a joke. She always thought her son was some priceless treasure, and that marrying him was me reaching above my station. I still remembered how she humiliated me at our wedding, ignoring my toast, dismissing me in her speech, praising Luis endlessly while conveniently forgetting that I had left behind my hometown, my family, and all my support to be with him in a strange city. At the beginning, Luis did have feelings for me. We even planned to go to Norway for our honeymoon to see the aurora. But once his mother found out, she complained nonstop that Norway was too cold, until she successfully forced us to change our honeymoon to the city she wanted to visit. After the wedding, I brought home the cat I had raised for years. Luis claimed he was allergic to cat hair, and while I wasn't looking, he gave it away. When I confronted her, she put on a pitiful face, saying she was old and her allergies were unbearable. Yet, despite knowing I was allergic to mangoes, she always placed fresh mangoes on the table. Little things like this built up until I was suffocating with unspoken resentment. I had complained to Luis before. At first, he would tell me to just endure it. Later, he only defended her. My mom raised me with so much effort. What's wrong with being a little more patient and tolerant toward an elder? Why are you so petty? His complete disregard for my feelings left me devastated. He knew no matter how outrageous his mother acted, I wouldn't leave him, and that's when everything between us fell apart for good. Looking at his smug face now, I finally snapped back at her. If you hadn't meddled and called my parents, they wouldn't have had to worry about any of this. Luis's mother froze, but I didn't give her a chance to respond. All you ever do is harp on me for not working. Did you forget how you and your son pushed me to quit in the first place? Back when I was at Luis's company, I helped him land several crucial contracts. Without me, would the company even be where it is today? By then, I was already a manager, making $40,000 a month. But after I quit, all I did was cook and clean. No matter how late Luis came home from drinking, there was always hot food waiting for him, and he only gave me $5,000 a month. Forgive me, but even a nanny makes more than that. Listening to you, it's like I should be endlessly grateful to your family. For what exactly? I wanted to keep going, but Luis jumped in, panicked. Rita, that's my mom. Show some respect. I looked him straight in the eyes. then hurled the teacup onto the floor with a crash. Water splashed everywhere. With red eyes, I spat out each word. Oh, now you remember what respect is? Where was your respect all these years? When your mom treated me like dirt and you stood there like a coward, not daring to say a word? If she's an elder, then what? A random stranger on the street has treated me better than she ever has before. Out of consideration for you, I respectfully called her mom. But now that we're divorced, she still thinks she can control me? Let me tell you, that's impossible. You're a spineless man, always telling me to compromise, to endure. Tell me, has your mother done a single decent thing for me in all these years? By the end, my hands were trembling uncontrollably, as if all the bitterness I had bottled up for years was finally spilling out. My mom was startled, tears welling up as she rushed to comfort me. I'd always hidden my pain, never letting them worry. They had no idea how much I had endured in this marriage until now. Chapter 6. Luis fell silent again, but this time, his face no longer carried impatience. There were layers of conflicting emotions. I even caught a faint trace of guilt flickering in his eyes. Unfortunately, it was all far too late. At that moment, Luis's mother tried to smooth things over once more. Rita, those were just little things. I never thought you'd hold a grudge for so many years. I've always known you were sensitive, but I treated you as my own daughter. My mother wrapped her arm around me. After today's confrontation, she finally saw Luis's mother's true colors. Even with my emotions completely breaking down, this woman still chose to disguise her accusations as kindness, implying I was petty and unforgiving. My mother wiped her tears and glared fiercely at her. Get out! Luis's mother forced an awkward smile. In-law, how can you say that? My father waved dismissively. Go. Who's your in-law? Rita has already divorced your son. We could never stoop to such a marriage. With that, my family prepared to leave. Luis rushed forward, desperate to explain. Dad, Mom, it's not like that. Please listen to me. But my mother slapped him across the face. His mother panicked, instinctively reaching out to grab my mother. But my father stood in front of us like an immovable mountain. She withdrew her hand, humiliated. Through tears, my mother spoke each word like steel. When Rita wanted to marry you, I was against it. I only have one daughter. To give her confidence in your household, we refused to take a single cent of bride price. Instead, we gave her a car and 300,000 yuan in dowry. Now, she's come back with nothing. Her entire dowry went to your family. Luis, do you remember what you swore when you married my daughter? You promised to take care of her for life, to never let her suffer even a little. Did you think we were easy to bully? That Rita had no family behind her? Luis had thought of these things before, but only now, confronted so plainly, did the shame crash down on him. My parents shielded me as we left. They stayed with me at a hotel for 2 days, keeping me company and taking me out to ease my mind, until work forced them to return home. I remained at the hotel, waiting out the 1-month cooling-off period for the divorce. With my parents' support, I finally felt relieved, as if a heavy burden had lifted. It was as though I had returned to my 20s, carefree once again. During this time, I started researching various industries, planning to open a small business once Luis's 5% shares were transferred to me. Fortunately, I was still young. Everything could start over. Chapter 7. In the evening, I couldn't sleep, so I picked up my phone, intending to unbind the home surveillance system. Unexpectedly, I saw Miriam. She was wearing a black business suit, her youthful, curvy figure accentuated beneath it. At that moment, her hair and clothes were all disheveled. Luis, looking dead drunk, was slumped against her like a sack of mud. She struggled to drag him onto the sofa. Luis kept mumbling, "Thirsty. I'm so thirsty." Miriam rummaged through the fridge and only found 2 bottles of milk. Luis took a sip and spat it out, angrily demanding, "Where's my watermelon juice?" Miriam froze. Where on earth am I supposed to get watermelon juice right now? Just drink some milk, or I'll get you some cold water. Luis frowned and fell silent. Suddenly, Miriam slipped off her blazer, revealing the camisole underneath. I was so disgusted I could hardly bear to watch. Then Miriam melted into Luis's arms, whispering, "Luis, You're already getting a divorce. When will you marry me and take me home? But the moment she pressed against him, Luis vomited all over the floor. The stench filled the room instantly. Miriam wrinkled her nose in disgust and tried to drag Luis to the bedroom, but he shoved her away. Who told you I'm getting divorced? I only have one wife, and that's Rita. Get out now, or I'll call the police. Ugh. They scuffled a bit longer, but Luis's rejection was too obvious. Miriam could only stomp her foot in frustration and leave. Luis staggered up from the sofa, stumbled a few steps, then plopped down by the potted plant next to the camera, calling over and over, "Rita, I want watermelon juice." The only reply was the mechanical ticking of the clock. Honestly, Luis was just spoiled. Every time he came home drunk, I'd always make him a fresh glass of watermelon juice to wash away the taste of alcohol. He never once appreciated it back then. Now, suddenly, he remembers? How convenient. What surprised me most was this: I had assumed that after the divorce, Luis would rush to be with Miriam. After all, judging from all the signs, Miriam was supposed to be his special one. But seeing his behavior now, I couldn't figure him out anymore. At 7 in the morning, I woke up again. I opened the surveillance feed and saw Luis sitting dazed at the empty dining table. Back when he came home drunk, I would always prepare a light porridge and side dishes for him, making sure they were ready on the table before he woke up. This was the first time he woke to nothing. Luis sat there smoking a cigarette, lost in thought, before heading out to work still wearing the same wrinkled clothes from yesterday. Chapter 8. That afternoon, I received a call from the company's finance department, asking me to come in and handle the property division. The moment I stepped through the door, I ran into Miriam. She looked at me with undisguised hostility, cornering me in the break room. She spoke with a smug tone. "Do you know why the company serves blueberry cake every Wednesday afternoon?" "Because you like it?" I asked, raising my eyes to study her. Her face radiated arrogance. Fresh out of college, she was cocky in a way that was almost childish. "If you're so confident in your relationship," I replied, "why waste your breath talking to me?" With pride, Miriam continued, "I just want you to recognize your place. Since you're divorced, don't cling anymore." In Luis's eyes, you were nothing more than a nanny. So this was a show of dominance. I smiled. "And you? What right does a mistress have to judge me? There are plenty of young, pretty girls in this world. Do you believe that if I expose you as a homewrecker, not only will you be kicked out, but it will also ruin Luis's company's reputation? Between his career and you, which do you think he'd choose? So be smart and stop provoking me. I really don't understand what makes you so arrogant. If you dare come flaunting in front of me again, tomorrow the whole world will know what you and your beloved Luis did. Oh, and don't forget about that video of you seducing Luis." Her face turned pale with rage. I brushed past her and walked out of the break room. Just as I finished with finance, Luis came rushing into the office, looking like he had just wrapped up a client meeting, as if his brain had short-circuited. He actually tried to put his arm around my shoulder. When I pulled away, a flash of hurt crossed his eyes, but he still looked at me with eager sincerity. "Rita, I know I was wrong. Let's start over, okay? From now on, I won't let my mother interfere in my life, and I'll fire Miriam." Miriam, who had followed behind, heard this. With tears in her eyes, she ran out. Luis didn't even glance at her. I sneered. "The child is gone, and now you come back to play savior? Do you really think everyone enjoys a redemption drama? If you need a nanny, go to a job market. Don't bother me." Luis clearly wasn't used to me speaking so directly. He almost lost his temper but forced himself to swallow it down. "Rita, I already know I was wrong. What more do you want? How did you become like this?" I looked straight at him. "Yeah, why do you think?" Luis turned his head away. Guilty. For a long time afterward, Luis clung to me like a leech, showing up everywhere, even pulling stunts like standing in the rain with flowers soaked to the bone. He lit up when I came down with an umbrella. "Rita, I knew you cared about me," he said with joy. I took the flowers, tossed them on the ground, and laughed behind my hand. "Luis, you really do look like a dog right now." The expression on his face was priceless. People are selfish creatures. They instinctively choose whatever benefits them most. Luis knew perfectly well that Miriam only loved his money. But back then, with me at home playing the dutiful wife, he had the freedom to chase the illusion of a first love with Miriam. Now that there was no one catering to his every need, he naturally felt lost. Luis's greatest love had always been himself. After that, no matter how he pestered me, I ignored him, blocked all his contacts except his phone number. Not out of nostalgia, but because once the 1-month cooling-off period ended, I needed to text him and tell him to meet me at the Civil Affairs Bureau for the divorce certificate. Luis still tried to win me back. I laughed as I threatened him. If you keep harassing me, I won't hesitate to expose everything about the three of us online. Let's see if anyone will still want to do business with your precious company then. He fell silent, the light in his eyes dimming little by little. Chapter 9. After receiving my share of the property, I moved back in with my parents and opened a dessert shop I'd always dreamed of. The days were simple, yet warm and fulfilling. The next time I heard news about Luis was a year later, through a mutual friend. Apparently, after being rejected, Miriam flew into a rage and leaked confidential documents of an important contract. This caused Luis to lose a great deal of money and dealt a heavy blow to the company. Luis showed no mercy for their past relationship and sent Miriam straight to prison. But Luis didn't fare much better himself. The company's capital chain broke. It declared bankruptcy and was acquired by a larger corporation. From once being a general manager, he was reduced to a powerless department head. His mother pressured him to go on blind dates every day, which only made him resentful of going home. After work, he would drown himself in alcohol. With her once glorious son fallen, even his mother's housekeeper quit, leaving her to become a true housewife, forced to clean and manage everything herself. When I heard all this, I wasn't sure what to feel. At first, it seemed like they both deserved such an ending. But at night, thinking it over, I couldn't help but feel a little sigh in my heart. Life really does come full circle. In the end, Luis's own words had proven true. People must take responsibility for their actions. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. Without depending on a man, I would, at last, become my own light.